Okay, I have some really, really interesting potential Sims news to share with you. And I feel like I should clarify right now, we are talking potential Sims news. This is purely speculation. It's based on some patents that were filed by EA back in April of last year, but just approved this October. And they're pretty explicitly about the Sims, like they literally use screenshots of the Sims in the patents. So it's kind of clear that they're working on something Sims related, possibly a future Sims game. But again, it's speculation. There's no confirmation here. There's no release date. Right now, we're just discussing theories and potentials for the future, okay? But it's still pretty interesting, so I want to share it with you. For starters, what is a patent? We're talking about a legal document, or in this case, a few documents that EA has filed to the government, and a patent is basically like legally owning an invention. But to do that, you have to list out the whole process of the invention and then be like, hey, I own this, no one else can make it or use it or sell it. But it's a legal document, so they have to file it publicly and everyone can see it and access it, like us, or in this case, my good friend Sims community. I will link both of these articles down below, obviously, if you want to like deep dive a little bit more on the process. Now, the documents themselves are a bit hefty, okay? Like, for example, this patent is 23 pages long. There's a lot of like technical language involved, because again, it's describing the whole process of said invention. So I'm gonna try and break it down for you in a bit simpler terms, but like I said, it's linked if you want to read more. The idea in this patent is to introduce a new way of creating characters in The Sims. So the idea is to allow the player to upload a photo, and then the game would analyze that photo and then pick out things like your eyes or your nose, maybe your face shape, your hairstyle, your hair color, and then it would create a sim based on the photo. The patent like pretty specifically lists the kind of features that it would use to do this, things like body, face shape, facial hair, ears, you know, all that stuff. And I think this is so interesting. Now, we actually had this before. Let me show you this photo. Way back in the olden days, the early days of The Sims, they had a similar system where you could upload a photo and then have it make a sim that looks like your photo. Except in this, you uploaded the photo and then it put the photo on the Sim's face. Like, the photo was on the face. It didn't make a sim that looked like your photo. The sim was the photo, which is actually kind of hilarious, but it seems like this new proposed technology is way more interesting because they want to be able to actually create sims that look like a real photo. Personally, I am very excited about this because I am so bad at making realistic sims. Like, I do not know how to make a sim self. I'm like, yeah, give her like short brown hair and like a weird bump on her nose and then call it a day because I don't know what else to do. So this system seems really appealing to me. Obviously, it wouldn't be like the only system for making Sims, but it's kind of a fun tool, especially considering how many people like go to The Sims to make versions of real people, maybe celebrities or their family themselves. Like, it's kind of cool to have the option to like have the game do it for you. This feels like a really big draw to me of new players as well. So I'm very into this idea of this technology. I don't know how well it's gonna work or even when it'll come out. I doubt this would be like a thing they would add to The Sims 4, and dare I say, it might be a feature that comes in The Sims 5. Now, we know they're working on The Sims 5. Well, we keep calling it The Sims 5, but some future new Sims game is very obviously in development. Lots of Sims producers have mysteriously stopped working on The Sims 4, but moved to a different project at Maxis. The CEO had a presentation where he talked about a lot of EA games, and he mentioned like a future generation of The Sims and possibly online features. And I made a whole video about that, so I'll link that down below too. But basically, we know this game is in the process of being made. Don't panic. It's gonna take years until it comes out. Like, The Sims 4 still has years left in her, but essentially we know it's being made, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was for that. That's not the only patent. They actually filed a few more, and these go even further, but I want to say again, this is like possibly for The Sims and possibly coming. These aren't like official. Again, there's no confirmation. These are just patents that were filed, and we're reading into them a lot, but it's just fun to talk about. This one is talking about uploading possibly videos to the game and it being able to turn that into a real character, and even to the extent of creating new meshes, recreating the shirt that you're wearing and other new assets. So you can see in this photo, we have this input depicting a real world person. The game creates a mesh of that person, but it also makes custom clothing that matches like the shirt and the hat and the glasses to look like that person. So it's sort of proposing the idea that it could like place the texture of your shirt, like this tie-dye shirt that I made, into the game. This image talks about like it auto customizing things things it thinks you will like based on the photos you uploaded to them. So you can like sort results by your style, by popularity. You can browse the full catalog. I mean, this is fascinating. And then later, it even talks about creating custom animations from footage you've uploaded. So this one is talking about Joe's happy dance, like a victory emote. So probably a short repeating animation. I have no idea how this is possible, but if it is, very cool. And then it goes on to talk about this same technology, but with pets instead of just humans. So you could upload a photo of your dog and the game would be like, okay, here's your dog. Here's Sims version of Spot, or I guess Ralph in this case. So I guess the idea is you would upload the photo, the game would look at it and be like, okay, this is a dog and it's a golden retriever. And then it would create some custom actions and behavior sequences and personality traits and blah, blah, blah. But again, these are just patents. They're describing like the tech process of creating these things. There's not even confirmation it's from The Sims. We just know that EA filed these patents. So that could mean anything. And we also know that in some of the patents, they're using photos of Sims. Like this is a photo from the patent. That's obviously a Sims 4 sim. So we can't be out here yelling and confirming like The Sims 5 is coming. This is what it's going to be like, because we really don't know anything. Again, we're just speculating based on these patents we've read. It is a pretty interesting thought though, right? Like the idea of The Sims being able to create characters based on real photos. I feel like this makes a lot of sense for a next-gen Sims game. It sounds like the tech is there, and also there's definitely a want. Like, let's talk for a second. How many of us, our first time ever playing The Sims, made ourselves and our families? Because I definitely did way back in The Sims 3. I was 9, and the first thing I did was make my whole family. So the idea of making like even better, more realistic versions of my family, or, you know, Justin Bieber or whatever, it's kind of interesting. And the pet one is super cool. I did not anticipate a thing like that, but I feel like that makes equal amount of sense. I am a little bit shocked by this proposed idea of like uploading a photo and then it making your actual clothes. I feel like I'd get it if the game was like, blue shirt, okay, here is blue shirt. But the idea of it putting like textures on it, I'm really confused by that. I don't know if that's gonna work, but it also might not even happen. Again, it's just a patent. We're not like, there's no confirmation here. So I wouldn't take this as like a thing to be concerned about. I would just take this as a thing to be cautiously excited about. Does that make sense? Like, I really wouldn't be reading into problems right now. It's way too soon to be thinking about that. Anyway, I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. Are you as excited about this as I am? Well, I probably shouldn't be excited. I need to tone it down because again, there's no confirmation. This is purely speculation. It is just really interesting though, right? I'm also curious if they were expecting people to find this, because obviously patents are public, like they're just out there. That's how it works. But they were officially published in October and it's December. So it did take us a little bit to find them, but they had to know. It was bound to happen that people would look into this. This kind of thing happens with games all the time. Like just 2 days ago, there were some new Nintendo patents found about Breath of the Wild, which kind of like shed some light on Breath of the Wild 2. So it's not an unusual thing for this to happen, but it's definitely exciting. Like I said, I will link that video down below of the CEO talking about The Sims 5, or possibly The Sims 5, that online stuff in The Sims. And I'll also link both of these articles down below. Seriously, go read the deep dives that Sims Community did because it's just so interesting. And with that being said, I think I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Quite the Christmas present from EA, huh? Got some patents about The Sims 5. Thank you very much.